and welcome back, everybody. It is the second leg of the semi-finals before going on to the finals of the Spring Series Grand Finale. I am Costa, joined by the ever so lovely Mr. Ben Kiriakou, and what a smashing, quite literally, set that we actually saw just now before the break. With that, Azumarill, I gotta love Azumarill, Ben, even though it wasn't able to win it all in game two, I think Kyle just played phenomenally.
He really did. I mean, you know, game one where the Azumarill got the belly drum up, and, you know, it survived a frenzy plant in its Dynamax form after taking that belly drum, so it had already lost quarter of its health, then went into Dynamax, survived a frenzy plant, hit the Max Geyser button and survived long enough to then follow up with some Aqua Jets afterwards in the rain. I don't need to tell you, Costa, that's quite strong when you're at stages of Ray's attack. So that was really quite let's call it explosive to watch, certainly. And then game two, it came down to this. We had a little bit of a disconnection issue, but the turn one lead for Kyle with that Incineroar Amoonguss just forcing the Spore onto his opponent was just fantastic to watch, and a great technique in positional play, and just making sure that when he came in with his Landorus afterwards, it was absolutely doing everything that it needed to do, and that's why he's going to be in the final. But we need to find out who he's going to be playing against. We have Simone Sanvito versus Marco Silva coming up in just a moment.
Of course, it's going to be yet another cracker of a match. Ladies and gents, another two Italian players trying to bout it out and try to do the best that they can, of course, for themselves, but doing very well for the community to reach the stage of the finals. Both very well versed in both skill as well as experience, no doubt. We're just going to go ahead, go straight into player profiles right now, and just get a bit of a refresh of both of these trainers, starting off with Marco. As achievements, we've gone over the achievements, to be honest, Ben, as they're just very, very solid and quite worth noting to make. He is rocking that Colossal team that so far has been doing amazing for him. He does have the version which does have that Togekiss, so I am potentially expecting to see it here because it just flows so well as a redirector. But more importantly, Marco does have that very offensive Dragapult that if he does, you know, if the situations prompts it, he can go full Dynamax with it and try to force a very offensive pressure from turn one, not even requiring that Colossal straight away.
Definitely not. And I think, you know, when we're talking about a player like Marco, we've also got to talk about how they play and how they approach VGC. And I think that's the real key to where Marco's been able to do so well and be so consistent in VGC. He understands how to use his team. Yes, there's a Colossal here, and yes, there's all of the setup there available, but Marco's a player that really understands how that works, how his opponents really react to it, and keeps cool in the face of that, and just is able to pilot the parts of his team that work irrespective of the Colossal being set up or not, to pilot its way to victory. So that's really what I'm looking out for Marco here. But there is another player in this top four match. We're going over to Simone Sanvito. Unfortunately, we don't have a feed from him. His internet is a little bit temperamental, so we had to choose between being able to watch a match and being able to see his face, and I think everyone here would agree that the match is the one that we want to see. Looking at achievements here, Simone hasn't been quite as on stream. We couldn't feature him earlier today, so quick run through his achievements. Runner-up in the 2016 Dortmund Regionals, 2017 European International Champion in the 2018 format, even though it was in 2017, I believe. Top 16 in the Pokemon World Championships of 2018, so some real pedigree in that format, and of course the champion of the Spring Circuit Qualifier #1. That was the first tournament that qualified him to be here right now, and likely the reason that he ended up as Seed 5, piloting that Registeel I think it's the only Registeel that's still left in this tournament here. We saw a few coming in through the ranks, but yeah, Registeel is going to be landing out here. So here are the teams on Team Preview.
Here they are indeed, and you could have a look for yourselves to try to figure out the kind of matchup in between both these international champions. It's gonna be all about trying to assess the most, the highest chance of win conditions at this moment. They both have world-class pedigree when it comes to experience and skill, as we did mention, and the matchups are very, very interesting. Like you were talking about, Ben, there, the Registeel, it is the only one standing at the moment left, and do you feel like it has a route to come through here? Because I think we've seen Marco actually dispatch other Registeels from yesterday in quite efficient manner.
Yeah, certainly. I think it's going to be difficult to bring the Registeel here. The question is how Simone is going to stop that Colossal from setting up. There is the Landorus. That is the only thing that's there, but Landorus isn't fast enough to stop Urshifu's Aquajet nor Dragapult Surf, so it's going to be quite difficult. Looks like it's the Regieleki that's coming out from Simone that wants to be doing all of the work here.
Yeah, so very interesting leads from both of these players. We do see that Marco has opted for the Togekiss and Incineroar. Of course, he does have that fake out pressure that he can try to go ahead and exert, whether both on Regieleki or Grimmsnarl to maybe stop any certain screens being set up. But the Regieleki isn't hating this situation, to be honest. It's quite enjoying it. We could expect maybe a very passive Protect just to avoid the fake out, but it's not in too bad of a situation here, to be honest.
Certainly not, and Togekiss doesn't really want to be facing it down, but there's the Protect that you mentioned there, Costa. Regieleki just protecting itself from any form of fake out, but none coming out, just a light screen from Grimmsnarl.
Light screen coming out from Grimmsnarl and the Dazzling Gleam from Marco's Togekiss. Can it pick up a critical hit is the question here, right? Oh boy, that looks like a very big critical hit there, ignoring the screen being set up, the light screen being set up from the Grimmsnarl, as we do see the parting shot going into that Regieleki's Protect.
Yeah, now there's a choice for Simone. Does he allow the parting shot to come out from the Incineroar onto the Regieleki? Unlikely that Regieleki, even in Dynamax form, is going to be able to knock out the Incineroar this turn. Or does something else happen? Is it just a Volt Switch coming out from that Regieleki into Incineroar or Togekiss? Looks like it's going to be that Incineroar.
It is indeed. So trying to get that pivot action going for itself. We did see the Grimmsnarl setting up Reflect this turn round, and now the Registeel is on the field, ladies and gents. Togekiss coming out with a Dazzling Gleam is more than enough to pick off the Grimmsnarl and get a KO onto it due to that critical hit. Very, very crucial there. And interesting interaction we're going to be seeing here. The parting shot cannot affect this Registeel as it does carry the Clear Body ability. In other words, Marco's Incineroar is going nowhere so far.
Absolutely not, and now Simone has the opportunity to bring in a Pokemon that can knock out that Incineroar or that Togekiss. That's going to be the Regieleki coming in and definitely putting more pressure in. The big point now here is that Registeel's on the field, and it's going to be quite difficult for Marco to be able to do exactly what he wants, which is control the damage output of the Regieleki while also putting enough pressure on the Registeel to stop it from boosting up and being unable to be knocked out later in the game. So Marco's got a choice about how he goes about playing this game, and Simone just starts off this turn with an Electro Web.
Web does connect with both of Marco's Pokemon as well, whilst being able to reduce their speed stat by 1 stage, as we do see the Iron Defense coming out from the Registeel, being able to skyrocket its defense up to +2 of stages. Dazzling Gleam following suit immediately after. That looks like a critical hit yet again. Now onto the Regieleki, and an Incineroar goes for the taunt onto the Registeel. So even though it was able to get that very cheeky +2 Iron Defense boost there for its defense, it is not able to do so anymore, at least for a couple of turns.
No. This play from Simone, dropping the speed with Electro Web allowed that Iron Defense to go up, and that's the first stage for getting this body press really working for Simone. So Marco was really prioritizing stopping that Registeel from doing anything while getting that Dazzling Gleam off to pressure Regieleki, but now it's really Regieleki and Registeel both threatening KOs on Marco's side of the field.
Oh, we see a Protect from the Toadkiss and a Thunderbolt following suit immediately after, but the Registeel is going straight into the Incineroar. It goes ahead, picks up the KO. Sure, that is very good now that Marco's down to his 3 Pokemon rather than 4, but this will allow a free switch in from Marco's side.
Certainly will, and yeah, it's going to be quite difficult now for Simone. We've seen the Urshifu coming in. That has access to Aqua Jet, and with the range this Regieleki is at, even a Dynamax isn't going to protect it. So that Togekiss is looking like it's going to be pretty safe, and of course, Body Press is 4 times resisted by Togekiss, so Marco's likely going to be content to just sit there for a couple of turns, maybe hitting that follow me button as we're seeing now, and just putting some pressure onto Simone's side of the field.
Redirection does come out from the Toadkiss. Aqua Jet goes into the Regieleki slot, picks up the KO. Even if there was a Protect there, thanks to its ability, it would go straight through it. As the Body Press goes onto onto the Toadkiss. Like you said, Ben, it is quad resisted from the fighting type of it. So 3-3 with regards to the remaining Pokemon on both trainers' sides. And more importantly, we hadn't seen Dynamax at all, because as you can tell, ladies and gents, this is all about positioning, setting up in the right moment where you can go ahead and utilize the Dynamax mechanic.
Yeah, and this is really difficult now for Simone. Almost certainly that Colossal's going to be in the back for Marco, so what Marco's trying to do is preserve that Aqua Jet setup here, but he's got to do that in front of Simone, likely going for something like a Max Airstream with his Landorus, speeding up the Landorus on his side of the field, as well as that Registeel. Less important about the Registeel, more important about that Landorus getting its speed up. If it can get faster than a 6+ speed Colossal, then it might have a chance. If not, it's going to be quite difficult. The other route here is maybe if it can get some Max Quakes going, then it could be getting bulky enough not to be knocked out straight away from a increased damage on the Colossal.
As we do see the Surging Strikes does come out, goes into the Landorus Therian slot. It will be bringing it down to below half of its HP's worth, the Dynamax worth, should I say, but not able to pick up a KO just yet, as the Landorus will now go and is on the retaliation front, goes for the Max Airstream, picks up the KO onto that Toadkiss, will be giving itself as well as the Registeel a +1 in speed. And like you mentioned, Ben, just before, this Landorus is very tough to try to outspeed a Colossal at +6, as we do see the Body Press coming out from the Registeel going into that Urshifu slot. So I'm not even sure if this Landorus at +3 Max Airstream, or should I say, sorry, plus speed, can even outspeed this Colossal, which it was just waiting to come in this perfect moment.
It was, and you know, the real question is does that Registeel have enough power to knock out the Colossal after an Aqua Jet in its Dynamax form? Really quite unlikely. I feel like Marco just has a really free setup with Colossal. Maybe the Landorus could go for a Max Guard, predict that maybe 2 Body Presses could be enough, but yeah, it's gonna be really difficult, because by that point the Urshifu would be able to Aqua Jet again, the Landorus would be out of its Dynamax form, and yeah, it's really hard to see a way for Simone to reposition himself, or position himself and attack in such a way that allows him to come out on top in this match.
It really is, and as we are going to be seeing Marco go for the G-Max Colossal on his side. So, to be expected, we are going to probably see an Aqua Jet proc of the weakness policy, as well as the Steam Engine ability, but more importantly, we see the Max Guard coming out from the Landorus. Real question right now, which slot has this Colossal targeted, and will it try to get the correct read right now? Because this Registeel really does not want to be left on its own, as the G-Max Volcalith does go into the max guard of the Landorus, so not what Marco's wanting to look for, as Simone goes ahead and is able to pick off that Urshifu. Of course, it may still be taunted, but that's not much of a matter. The important thing was there to get rid of the Urshifu, leaving Colossal all on its own.
Yeah, and maybe there's a route through here if Simone gets the double max guard. I think that play that we just saw was fairly forced here, but not even going for it, just the G-Max Volcalith going almost certainly straight into that Landorus. Are going to be enough to pick up the knockout, no problem whatsoever. And this Registeel will just be left to body press and see if it can just do enough damage. Maybe with a protect next turn, but no, going for the amnesia. So yeah, putting all of the right eggs in the right basket here, and yeah, it's going to take some residual damage from that G-Max Volcalith, but it does have the leftovers recovery, so won't be taking as much as it maybe could. But a max flare coming out here outside of light screen is going to be quite difficult for Simone to deal with, because that max flare is going to be setting up the sun, and then heat wave afterwards is going to be pretty damaging as long as it connects.
This is gonna be a nail biter, ladies and gents. Max Flare does come out, goes into the Registeel slot, still does respectable damage through Protect, but more importantly, like you did mention, Ben, it is setting up the sun. This is all now prone to whether a heat wave will miss or not. So this is literally, I feel like this is a very repeated pattern that we've observed with VGC. RNG is a factor in this, and Marco needs it to go in his favor right now.
Yeah, I mean, you could say maybe try to go for the Earth Powers, but unlikely to do enough damage. The Heat Wave does indeed connect, and it is enough to pick up the KO. I'm not sure how close that was, but I'm not particularly surprised overall now that it's in the sun. Had its weakness policy activated, even with that amnesia that Registeel was able to get up. So yeah, I think what we're seeing here again, we sort of talked about this a little bit at the start of the game, how Marco was able to use the Colossal team to its full potential, and that means either not using the Colossal or having the foresight to use it really well and bring it in at the end, not the start, so that it can just absolutely mop up the team. But yeah, it's a real tough one for Simone, I think, to readjust here. Coming into this game, he's got to get that Landorus in a position where it can attack the Colossal before it gets that steam engine boost.
Yeah, it really is. And like you said, Ben, it is all about positioning. Marco did it exceptionally well. He knew that he needed to get the Colossal on the field right next to Urshifu. So the real question right now is, how is Simone going to respond? Is he trying to go down? Will he go down a different venue? Because so far, Marco seems to be going fairly decent against Registeel teams. Do you think that maybe Simone should be giving more priority onto another Pokemon instead?
Well, I think Regieleki and Landorus have to be brought here for Simone because of how they deal with his team. Grimmsnarl makes sense. He gets those screens up, offers a bit of support, but the last Pokemon is a little bit up for grabs. Spectre is probably not going to be doing too much work in this sort of match. Maybe able to get off for something like a burn on that Urshifu, but I'm not really going to make too much of a difference. But here we are with the leads for Game 2.
Game 2 leads, we see the Dragapult and Urshifu on Marco's side, whilst we see the Grimmsnarl and the Regieleki on Simone's side. So, same lead from Simone, different change-up from Marco's side, actually leading with both of the Pokemon that are very common partners to Colossal in getting it set up.
Yeah, and I think, really important here, if the focus sash on Marco's Urshifu can be broken by Simone this turn, that would be, I think, the favorite there. Then Landorus, when it comes in later, is able to max airstream and just knock it out. Even Togekiss causes some issues, but at least you're a bit closer there. But yeah, Dynamax coming out from Marco, going on the offensive, maybe not even brought his Colossal, like we saw with this lead in the previous set. So we'll have to see what happens here.
We go. Protect coming out from the Urshifu, not wanting to maybe get any sort of focus sash damage proc onto it, whilst we see the Volt Switch from the Regieleki does target the correct Pokemon on Marco's side, that Dragapult, being able to deal respectable amounts of chip damage whilst getting that switch in of the Registeel, and oh my lord, Max Airstream comes out, oh, and it targets the Registeel, not what you want if you are Marco. You can see a bit of frustration in his face there, as he only wanted to break a focus sash on the Regieleki. He maybe could have gone for a very good Max Phantasm right there to deal even more damage, as we saw the Spirit Break going into the Urshifu's Protect.
Yeah, I like that play there from Simone, just pivoting on the right Pokemon, and then being able to take that Max Airstream fantastically. Did target into the Urshifu, so is aware of that focus sash and maybe could be double targeting it this turn. Registeel's Body Press plus Grimmsnarl's Spirit Break would almost certainly be enough, but Simone just content to set up some Reflects here, just make sure that neither Pokemon gets knocked out this turn.
Exactly, as Max Phantasm is now going to connect to into this Registeel. Imagine if it did the previous turn, is what I'm constantly thinking about right now, as we reduce the Life Orb, reducing a bit of HP onto the Dragapult. Close combat.
Oh my god.
Fails to pick up the KO, but it was so close, wasn't it?
Man, that close combat damage was absolutely not what you wanted to see. That Urshifu now has his focus dash broken, and you can see how effective Reflect is in these sort of games with a Pokemon that's just as bulky as Registeel. Registeel has equal amounts defense and special defense, but it's clearly been trained to take advantage of that defensive stat with Body Press. And yes, Simone in a fantastic position here. Sash is broken. The Dragapult has already used up 2 turns of its Dynamax. That means Colossal, if it's in the back, cannot Dynamax. That's going to be quite crucial later on. And Simone's given up a bit of damage on Registeel, but Registeel's not the Pokemon that you want sitting around at the end in this matchup. It's the Pokemon that you want it to sponge attacks in the early game, and that's exactly what's happening here. Registeel, though, going to sponge yet another attack with that Protect.
As a Scary Face is coming out from the Grimmsnarl, goes into the Urshifu slot. Simone doing exceptionally well, installing a Dynamax on Marco's side. Max Airstream comes out, does target down the Grimmsnarl, but we do have the Reflect in play for Simone's side. It's not going to be dealing as much damage as it originally would have, but the Surging Strikes is going to be coming out from this Rapid Strike Urshifu, and it targets down the Grimmsnarl, ignores the Reflect, and does guarantee the KO. But I think Simone's Grimmsnarl did what it sought out to be honest.
Yeah, I think so, and now Landorus has an opportunity to come in, do a little bit of work here. Regieleki can come in. The Dragapult on Marco's side of the field is going back to its normal form, so you don't have to worry with Regieleki that the Dragapult is now faster than it. So much, but here's the Landorus going to come out, going to intimidate that Urshifu, not going to make such an impact, but with those 2 Max Airstreams, Urshifu I believe will still outspeed the Landorus potentially, even with that Scary Face that brought it back down to neutral. So it just depends on how Simone wants to play this Landorus as to whether he wants to get it going, get it Dynamax, start attacking. Never quite get to the end of a sentence before these Dynamaxes start to happen. Simone knows exactly what he's going to do, and he's clicked the buttons, as does Marco. So here's the Landorus. We're likely going to see an Airstream here, I think.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense to want to try to at least try to get some speed going for this Registeel. If it does survive, we do see the Dragapult going for the Dragon Darts. It will be doing a tiny bit of chip damage onto the Registeel, and it will be doing even more onto the Landorus in comparison to the first hit right there. Surging Strikes, though, comes out from this Urshifu. Is it enough to pick up a KO? From what I'm looking at, doesn't look to be at all, but it is, more importantly, bringing it down down to a certain range where it can be threatened if there's any sort of Pokemon that could get an attack off. On Marco's side, talking about an attack, Max Airstream goes straight into the Earthfist slot, does pick up the KO onto it, and leaving this Registeel right now to try to perhaps get a iron defense going, as the body press will not even land and connect onto this Dragon Bolt, sorry, as it does indeed go ahead, get the iron defense. Not what you would commonly see at such low HP, but don't forget, ladies and gents, leftovers is there for a reason, and Registeel is all about the lasting in the long run.
Yeah, I'm not sure quite how I feel about that play there. I might prefer to see the Airstream go into the Dragapult, remove that from the field, then the Landorus would have been faster next turn. You could have body pressed, maybe max guard and body pressed again, depending on how it went. But now we're in a position where Dragapult can just go for the Dragon Darts and hit that Landorus, and definitely knock it out. And Registeel, even with that iron defense, is going to be knocked out eventually by those dazzling gleams coming out from the Togekiss. So Regieleki in the back looks like it's in a strong position, but unfortunately the Dragapult looks like it's putting on just a bit too much pressure for my liking.
Registeel going for the protect, and Dragon Darts, guess what? It is more than enough to pick up the KO onto the Landorus there. For the previous turn, I feel like there may have been pressure of the Dragapult opting to go for a Phantom Force, which would have completely negated a max Airstream going into that slot. So maybe that was in the kind of thought process Simone was, but we do see the Dazzling Gleam not connecting onto any Pokemon on Simone's side due to the Registeel protecting.
And Regieleki coming in here, probably going to be enough to pick up the knockout on Dragapult if it wants to. Certainly if Togekiss allows it to. The Togekiss will definitely get knocked out by a Regieleki here, and maybe there's another iron defense coming from the Registeel in fact. Too many Regis on the field. That looks like a critical hit coming out, certainly from the Registeel, and we'll have to see how the Regieleki has targeted, whether it's prioritizing the Thunderbolt onto that Dragapult, or in fact onto the Togekiss, not even picking up the KO. Wow, that's not what I expected at all. Yeah, you can see Marco is pretty happy about that, rightly so, and that Dazzling Gleam does come out, probably going to pick up the KO. Yeah, there we go on the Regieleki. So yeah, Marco with a Pokemon in the back will definitely be able to do enough damage to knock out this Registeel for sure, especially now that Dazzling Gleam does become single targets, and Simone does have some opportunity to go for some protects here, just to stall it out. But Phantom Force in combination with things like Air Slash and Dazzling Gleam, especially critical hitting, is likely to be enough to knock out this Registeel, even with the Amnesia.
Yeah, as Dazzling Gleam is going to go into the Registeel, doesn't pick up a KO, but honestly, in the previous turn, I would have preferred seeing a body press rather than another iron defense set up. You need to go on to the offensive if you are trying to focus down that Togekiss, because right now, the Registeel is just left on its lonesome self, and this looks like it's already game, because it's just at too low of HP right now for Simone to even try to get a game back right now for himself, which will be leading Marco straight into the finals.
Yeah, certainly. I think, Marco played this really well in that he saw the Registeel on the field, even survived that Phantom Force. Oh man, that's a Registeel, man. That is a Registeel. He's just gonna keep sitting there. Simone, I think playing correctly, actually. Boosting up and trying to just wear down and get to the point where he can survive non-critical attacks. But unfortunately, that Togekiss, it just likes critical hitting too much, and unfortunately that does ignore the Amnesia, so no real game plan there. But you've got to do it when you're one game down in a set. You just have to keep playing for your outs. So well played to both players. Simone definitely had a difficult time there. I think not having any fake out nor redirection does sort of scupper your game plans versus Colossal, especially if Colossal played well. And I think that's exactly what Marco did in game one. Brought the Colossal in the end game, and that was absolutely crucial to be able to get to that position where Registeel couldn't do anything at the end. You can just target down the Landorus and you can target down the other Pokemon. Right, and in game two, hey, maybe he brought the Colossal, maybe he didn't. I don't think we saw it in his team when he was switching. So, yeah, just don't bring it next game. And even if Simone doesn't have the tools to deal with it, he's still got to take his best tools to deal with it. And you kind of know, you can sort of play around the 4 Pokemon that Simone has to bring rather than playing a 6 versus 6, so to speak.
I feel like I would have, even though GG's of course to both those trainers for that set, I would have preferred the Landorus not Dynamaxing in game 2. I would have preferred if it was the Regieleki perhaps in the back, because you just take too much damage from both Urshifu and Dragapult. I can completely understand you want to at least try to get in a good position because you're up against a Dragapult which has boosted its speed and an Urshifu right next to it, but at that point, you kind of felt like it was lost already, the momentum, because you don't have the speed advantage. This Dragapult is just doing whatever it wants. It goes for Dragon Darts, it goes Phantom Force. You are not left with a lot of options, and in that situation it felt a bit raw because Registeel, yes, it is there to stay for the long game, but in that scenario there was too much pressure on Marco's side, and he did very well in leading with a Dragapult and just wanting to go for damage and getting those speed boosts going for himself.
Yeah, I think so, and I think, maybe there was a game where Simone switched out the Registeel a little bit earlier, brought it in, tanked the attacks, brought it out again, because it wasn't doing like loads of work. You do have to have it on the field to boost, but maybe it was more of a sponge in that game than it was an attacker or a Pokemon that sees you through to the end, and maybe that was where the game could have diverged slightly, but we're here now. Marco is going to be joining Kyle in the final match of this tournament. So without further ado, we're going to be going to a short break now. Coming back to you with the final match of the tournament to decide your winner of the Victory Road Circuit Spring Series.
Catch you in a bit, peeps.